How many were not here last night? Where were you? Well, that was a pretty good line. Okay, let's start over again. I'm not going to repeat a lot. However, I have been told via the grapevine that I was pretty rough on some of you last night. And some of you were very discouraged. But you showed up tonight. And I have the solution. I am passing this on to you, those of you that were discouraged last night, because it definitely worked for me. And we could all use a little more calmness in our lives. By following the simple advice I heard on the Dr. Phil show. This is a pretty good group. I like this group a whole lot, to tell the truth. And I hope no one says amen, or we might not finish at 9 o'clock. I start again. Serious. By following the simple advice I heard on the Dr. Phil show, I have finally found inner peace. Dr. Phil said, the way to achieve inner peace is to finish all the things you've started and never finished. So I looked around my house to see all the things I had started and had never finished. And before leaving this morning for work, I finished off a bottle of Merlot. You all know what that is? Oh, this isn't a Baptist church, is it? This is a fun group, I have to admit. I've given this before, and it was stone silence. I finished off a bottle of Merlot, a bottle of White Zinfandel, a bottle of Bailey's Irish Cream, a bottle of Kahlua. That will make you happy. A package of Oreos, the remainder of my own Darfacet prescription, the rest of the cheesecake in the refrigerator, some ice cream, and a box of chocolates. You have no idea how wonderful I really feel. I thought that was cute. And since you got a sense of humor, I thought I'd try it on you. And it worked. Let's see, did we bury this other one here? I guess we did, didn't we? Oops, I sort of messed it up, huh? Okay, good evening, everybody. Tommy, are you back there? No. He's back there. Yeah, I know. That's why I asked. Now, we left last night with part 2 of what's going on, and I need to finish that one section here. However, we moved into it by using Martin Rees's book, Just Six Numbers. And for those of you that have any scientific bend, I would suggest that book. And the argument is really rather simple. His argument is that 6 numbers define the whole universe. 6 numbers define the whole physical universe. I gave you 5 last night. There was 1 that we're still looking for. So those of you that think it's all over, remember, there's still 1 number that we're looking for. But it reminds me of the atomic chart. Remember, when the atomic chart was moving along, there were numerous numbers in the atomic chart that we couldn't figure out either. We might have had whatever they were, 30, 31, and then all of a sudden we got 36, and we thought, I wonder if there's something in between. And you know what? We found them all. It's really amazing. So they are very concerned that, they're not that concerned. They say, we'll find it. And it's just, and they already have the parameters of the number. That's what's intriguing to me. Okay, that chapter was really intriguing to me because I thought maybe I could help them find it. And I didn't even know what they're talking about. It was just energy and force, and I sort of like that. Energy and force, and energy and force. And all of life is energy. Did you realize that? All of life is energy? Well, that's what they said. I don't know. I don't have much, but my wife is trying to help that out. My wife's a health nut. I know, you won't believe that. Well, Margaret would believe that. My wife's a health nut. And she wants me to be healthy too. And it's not so easy. So I came off of this with, if there are just 6 numbers that define the whole physical universe, I'll bet you I can get by with saying that there are 6 worldviews that define the world. And you know what? I'm pretty close. And you know why I know I'm pretty close? Because on this chart, if I did this, now I'm not going to do it tonight demographically, but if I did this chart demographically, you'd be surprised on about 6.5 billion human beings where they would fit on this chart. But that would take a little time tonight. And it's 6.5 billion, by the way. There are 6.5 billion human beings on Mother Earth. And I got that from the horse's mouth because I called the UN to double check. And they said I was right. I was right. And I actually talked to someone. That was the amazing part. Well, he said it was Bill Clinton, but you know how they lie at the UN. So if you take Christianity in its broadest definition, Islam in its broadest definition, secular humanism in the broad definitions now, okay, you got to do it that way, you will come up very close with just this chart alone to, depending on where you number certain numbers, you will come very close to 6.5 billion human beings. And what I tell the students is, look, we're talking about the earth of human beings. 3/4 of the world is water. We don't have to worry about that right now. And of course there will be some tribe in Peru that won't fit the chart, but don't worry about that tribe in Peru. I'm talking about the 6 worldviews that are vying for the world. And there it is right there. There it is right there. Or it'll be close to that chart, one way or the other. Now, what I want to do, that's my declaration, but what I want to do is give you the ammunition that I have come up with. Because once I come up with these things, I start looking around for help. And I found some help. Now, those of you that have this on DVD or whatever, do you have it? It's called Worldviews in Conflict. Do you have that part of it? I have given the studentos how many pages? From 25 to 39. Just on this one section called Worldviews in Conflict. I'm just going to pick out a few of these items here. You listen along and see what you think and see how close we come to this chart. That's what's going to be interesting. I want to start with Dennis Prager. Dennis Prager is Jewish. I'll identify this as we go along. How many have heard of Dennis Prager, by the way? So 2 or 3. Dennis Prager said the following: the world's future is being decided at this time. It's interesting. I like the way he starts. Got my attention. I mean, if the world's future is being decided at this time, I'd like to know about it. I don't know about you. I mean, some like to just sit on the sidelines and watch it go. But I don't have that. I don't have that. I like to be out there. I like to get involved with the action. Such moments are extremely rare in history. I think he's right on that, but listen to why he says it. When they have occurred, they have usually been between 2 and not 3 competing worldviews. Usually it's just 2. He says what's interesting is it's 3. But there are now 3 competing to shape the future of mankind. They are militant Islam. Well, there's your chart. Is Islam on that chart? Whoa. They are militant Islam, Western European secularism, and socialism. Is that on that chart? Where? Secular humanism. That's right. Western Europe today is under the domain of the secular humanist. And third, the American Judeo-Christian American Judeo-Christianity and capitalism. I thought that was rather interesting the way he put that. American Judeo-Christianity and capitalism. Is that on our chart? Whoa. I see something. I'll bet it is. Listen to this, however. The first is being spread both peacefully and violently. You all agree with that? Peacefully and violently. The second is being spread peacefully. The third is not being spread at all. Now, my friends, that isn't exactly true. Well, let's stop there a second. What's the fastest growing religion in the world today? How many say Islam? How many say Christianity? How many say Marxism? How many say postmodernism? The correct answer? Christianity. Christianity is the fastest growing religion in the world today. But not in the West. Not in the West. The fastest growing religion in the West, Europe and America and Canada, is Islam. Islam. I don't know the final figures on how many mosques are being built every week in the West, but it would stagger you. The largest mosque in the West is now being built in London. It's being built right next to the Olympic Center. When they have the Olympics in London in 2012, the largest will be the Muslim mosque. It will hold 70,000 people. In fact, the largest auditorium, or not a coliseum or whatever they call it for Olympics, is just slightly over that. The closest Christian church to that holds 3,000. So there's a 67,000 gap in there someplace. So in the West, the fastest growing religion is Islam. By the way, the fastest growing religion in China today is Christianity. It's really amazing. It's really amazing. Africa, Christianity. Interestingly also to me is that the fastest growing church in Africa is the Anglican Church. And it's the conservative church. And I notice in this country, many of the Episcopalians are trying to bail out of their diocese and trying to get under the African bishops. Isn't that amazing? You talk about a 180, or is that a 360? I mean, you go one direction, you come out the other side, okay? So maybe we need the missionaries over here before too long. What do you think about that? Anyway, that's Dennis Prager's take on it. Jewish source, Dennis says, there are three vying for the world. I now move to, let's see, I want to do Robert George in here. Here we go. Robert George. Let's see what Robert George says. Robert George is at Princeton, and he's Roman Catholic. Here's his summary. A few years ago, he said, the eminent Harvard political scientist Samuel Huntington published in Foreign Affairs a widely noted article called The Clash of Civilizations. Clash of Civilizations. Remember, my argument last night was I can figure out this whole world by looking at 6 worldviews and their collisions. Isn't that what I said last night? What's going on is a collision of today's competing worldviews. He calls it a clash of civilizations. We're not going to argue about that. We could use the term. That's fine. I personally like I would say the clash of worldviews would be closer, but much of that is also a civilizational point. Looking at contemporary international relations from a geopolitical vantage point, he predicted a clash of the world's major civilizations. He says this is what they include: the West. Now, friends, when you hear the West from a worldview point of view, what do you think of? Christianity is what they think of, generally speaking. Usually when they say West, they're talking about Christianity somehow is draped over the West. But as we're going to see, that's no longer true. The Islamic world, Islam, And Confucius East, he calls it. What would we call it? What's the worldview up there? Confucius East? Marxist humanism, for sure. Marxist humanism is China. Correct? And incidentally, that's interesting. Everyone's trying to tell me that the Chinese are no longer going communistic. They are communistic. Come on. They're not going. They're there. They've been there since 49. And they haven't given up a foot, in case you're wondering. They haven't given up a foot. They've compromised in economics. But I'll tell you, the compromise is real simple. They put all their sons and daughters as the heads of the corporations is what they've done. So all the heads of the major corporations in communist China today are communist kids. Okay? Huntington's article provoked a response from one of his students, Jim Kurth, who's at Swarthmore, and he wrote an article in National Interest. Listen to what he says. The real clash. Okay, we have the clash of civilizations. I contend it's a collision of worldviews. He says it's the real clash. Okay, Jim, what's the real clash? The real clash that is coming and indeed has already begun is not so much among the world's great civilizations as it is within the civilization of the West itself. That's the real clash. It's within Western civilization itself. It's between those who claim the Judeo-Christian worldview. Ooh, that's our word, isn't it? It's between those who claim the Judeo-Christian worldview, get this, and those who have abandoned it. They have abandoned the Judeo-Christian worldview in favor of the isms of contemporary American life, i.e., feminism, multiculturalism, gay liberationism, and lifestyle liberalism. Lifestyle liberalism, by the way, is real simple. Abortion. That determines liberalism in our country today. And I remember not too long ago, we were trying to put a couple of Supreme Court justices on the bench. What was the key issue? Abortion. Isn't that amazing? That's all they really want. All the liberals looked at those two guys. All they were wondering about is abortion. 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 Abortion, of course, is the final step in the sexual revolution. And we don't have time to get into that. And we've already talked about Freud a few times already. Much of the sexual revolution does go back to Freud, up through Margaret Sanger, up through Kinsey, and right to the present. You can take the line right on through. So, what does he call this? He calls this family of feminism, multiculturalism, gay liberationism, and lifestyle liberalism, he calls it the family of secularist orthodoxy. Isn't that interesting? Is that on our board? The name for it is secular humanism. That's the name of this particular world view. Now, my friends, I'm going to use this in a second. Just take a look at this. I don't know how far we're going to get on this, but this is a good place for just to give you an idea. This is the secular humanist ball team. This is their A team. And you see that batter. You all know baseball now. You got to know baseball to get this one, right? You see that batter there? That's your son or daughter at the University of Texas at Austin. Or is that too close to home? That's your son or daughter at Texas Tech. Is that better? Oh, I better be careful. My daughter graduated from Texas Tech. Let's start over again. Harvard University. Am I safe now? You know what? It doesn't make any difference. Remember that letter we let off with last night from the mother who sent her daughter to the University of Oregon and said she didn't know this is one of the most liberal universities in the nation? The mother didn't know that. Well, it isn't. It isn't. It's just one of 1,000. Well, let's put it this way. It's one of 3,000. They're all liberal. Yeah, Texas A&M is liberal too. but not as liberal, Tommy, not as liberal as Austin. So you got to be careful in that. By the way, I used to love speaking at A&M because they treat their Christian organizations on campus very nicely. Very nicely. But anyway, that's a different story. Because we had a riot, I think, the last time I was there. Now, that's your son or daughter at the plate. All we're asking that batter to do is get a hit. Right? Get a hit. We just sent him there. He's 18 years of age. He's had 12 years of Sunday school. He should certainly be able to get a hit. 12 years of Sunday school. But he's also had 12 years of public school. Yeah. Who's pitching? John Dewey. Now, that he should be pitching left-handed, but I didn't switch him around on that. This is a pretty good group. Isaac Asimov is the catcher. Paul Kurtz is at first. Corliss Lamont is at second. Julian Huxley is shortstop. Hey, Julie, don't let that ball get past you. Bertie Russell's at third base. Richard Dawkins is left field. Personally, they should all be in left field, but we had to spread them around. Am I making sense or no? Is this kid having a hard time up there? Oh. Center field is Margaret Sanger. And right field is Carl Rogers. Boy, he went like that if I mention that. Let's see. Did I give you... Ted Turner's the coach, by the way, in case you're looking for him. You notice something about this team, my friends? This is a secular humanist ball team. And that ball team there runs the public school systems in this country from kindergarten through graduate school. Kindergarten through graduate school, you're looking at the players. And we're sending our little 18-year-olds and we're telling them to get a hit. That's tough. That is tough. Now, I tell some of our students, look, you might have to swing the bat at Isaac and drop him. And when John throws the ball, grab the ball in midair. And then run to first, swing at Paul, and drop him, and jump on the base. At least we got him on base. Now we got to get him around. Is that tough? And in this process, we are losing some of our finest Christian young people. I mean, it breaks my heart. And I'll bet you, my friends, if we stopped right here and had confessional time, I'll bet you we'd find some parents who could go right up to that guy there and say, that was my son or daughter. And never got to first base. What do you think? By the way, wherever I speak on this, I don't have to worry about that because they're there. They are there. We've already experienced it. Now, I have a quote here. I got to do this correctly, okay, to make this the best. I have a quote here from Ruth Tucker. Page 32 if you got your material there. Ruth Tucker is a professor of theology at Calvin Seminary. She has written a very interesting book which is worth reading called Walking Away from the Faith, trying to figure out why are we losing so many of our Christian young people. I want you to hear what she says. Okay? Postmodernism. Ooh, that's interesting. Whoops. Well, I won't put it back, but we've had postmodernism up there, right? Postmodernism has provided an environment that is more accepting of supernatural belief. By the way, that is one of the arguments in favor of postmodernism, that it's more friendly to us. But my friends, when you look at it twice, it really isn't. If you think Richard Rorty is more friendly to us, in fact, I even have a quote in here, I believe, from Richard Rorty, and it is not a friendly quote. It is not a friendly quote. It's on page 26 for those of you that want to look at that, and I'm not doing that tonight, but on 26 you'll have both those quotes from Richard Rorty. Yeah, Richard Rorty is not friendly to us in any way, shape, or form. So she says, but this environment has not stopped, get this, the leaky pipe of Christianity. The leak that resists the Teflon paste and waterproof tape and just keeps dripping. We keep losing our kids. We keep losing our kids. Even as the reservoirs of the faithful keep rising, the seepage continues a steady dribble. That no postmodern spirituality, which ranges from New Age fuzziness to charismatic fervor, old-fashioned orthodoxy, might also appear reasonable. But skeptics of the humanistic bent are not impressed by a reasonable religious belief. That's interesting that she says it like that. Despite all the eulogies to secular humanism, that's it right there, okay? Despite all the eulogies to secular humanism and scientific naturalism, modernism is not dead. And postmodernism has not taken its place. Humanism is alive and well. Well, I've already told you, this is the ball team, and they run the educational system from K through graduate school. I have it right here in another book called Clergy in the Classroom, which I will mention a little later. Clergy in the classroom is not Christian clergy. Trust me. She says humanism is alive and well, and this philosophical creed. Ooh, creed. Does that sound religious to you, by the way? This philosophical creed continues to be, I would argue, the underlying reason for walking away from the faith. What a quote. This is the ball team, friends. If that batter loses his way at our famous schools of higher leaning, it's because of that ball team there. Okay? And his religious faith that he thought he was going to take down the first base is going to be seeping through these leaky pipes. And by the time he makes it all around the bases and finally gets back to home base, many of them never get back to home base. Never get back to home base. I think Ruth Tucker is right on the money. Page 30. Page 30 for you guys. William Lynn. Ooh, I brought the military in here. How many are military guys? Gotcha. This is a Marine. I didn't even know the Marines had a Gazette. No, serious. When you think of the Marines, you don't think of writers. Are you a Marine?
I am. I published it.
Do you publish in the Marine Corps Gazette? Good for you, man. I'll tell you what. This statement by Bill Lynn, this is December 94, so you can check it out. Page 37. Listen to this. This is a Marine speaking. In the United States of America, our traditional Western Judeo-Christian culture is collapsing. It is not collapsing because it failed. Isn't that interesting? It's not collapsing because it failed. In fact, he says, on the contrary, it has given us the freest and most prosperous society in all of recorded human history. And most of you in this room probably know that. Probably you know that. Rather, it is collapsing. This is what just gets me. Rather, it is collapsing because we have abandoned it. We have abandoned our own culture and our own civilization. Starting in the mid-60s. Woo, isn't that interesting? Starting in the mid-60s. We have thrown away our values, our morals, and our standards that define traditional Western culture. Well, we should have Tommy come up here because Tommy could give us all the songs. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. How many remember? Come on. Yeah. The White Album. How many remember? By the way, take a look at the Sgt. Pepper's album. I used to lecture on this, as some of you remember. I used to lecture on this all over until I got discouraged. In fact, someone said, smile, it could get worse. So you know what? I smiled, and sure enough, it got worse. I mean, if you look at Sgt. Pepper's album, all of the Beatles' heroes are pasted on the album cover. Did you notice that? So you got Karl Marx, you got Crowley. You know what I'm saying then, huh? Okay. In the mid-'60s, we threw away our values, moral standards. What was our slogan in the 60s? Drugs and sex and rock and roll is all our brain and body needs. Isn't that amazing? And it caught on. It caught on. In part, this was driven by cultural radicals. Yes, it was. And I used to identify them because in those days I was reading a lot of communist literature. And they just pegged them. I caught on to the Beatles early because I was reading all about them in the communist literature. John Lennon wrote the theme song for the Communist Revolution. No one even knows about it. John Lennon wrote the theme song for the Communist Revolution. It was called Working Class Hero. It was driven by cultural radicals, people who hate our Judeo-Christian culture. Dominant in the elite. Boy, that's a lecture right there. Dominant in the elite, especially in the universities. That's what we're talking about right here, aren't we? Especially in the universities. The media, the entertainment industry, the cultural radicals have successfully pushed an agenda of moral relativism, militant secularism, and sexual and social liberation. And to a great extent, we are today where we are today because of the revolution that was kicked off in the 60s. Kicked off in the 60s. And it takes a Marine to figure it out. I like that. By the way, he's a great guy. I like him too. I see him every so often. And he works for Paul Wyrick. Okay, that's the Marine. So I got a Marine in there. Who else do I have here? Oh, this is something else. Paul Beelan writes, he's the editor of the Brussels Journal. I'm just going to read the first few lines here because the whole article's worth reading. This is in the Washington Times, and you won't find it in your notes, so it's May 23rd, 2007, page A19. Read, quoth, Europe is in the middle of a three-way cultural war. Well, we just read about, Dennis Prager said something like that, didn't he? Between the defenders of traditional Judeo-Christian morality, the proponents of secular hedonism, and the forces of Islamic jihadism. Do we have them all on our board? Whoop, not on this one, but do we have them on our previous board, huh? I think we're getting pretty close to figuring this out. In Western Europe, the fight between Christians and secularists is over. Who won? The secularists have won. Go to Germany. Most beautiful churches in the world are in Germany, or just about. Few in Italy. That's a joke, by the way. They got some beautiful churches there, too. But in Germany, they got some beautiful churches, my friends, and they're empty. They're empty. 2 people show up on Sunday. The one who lights the candle, and then the caretaker right behind him who turns it off and closes the door and locks it. 2 people show up. A mile away is the mosque. Overflowing overflowing, my friends. Not only overflowing, that's an understatement. They have their speakers on the outside of these mosques that reach out nearly a mile. The speakers reach out nearly a mile. I mean, you would think maybe, okay, there's a speaker. That's nice because they got 2 or 3 people outside that can't get in. Oh, no. They got hundreds of people outside that can't get in. That's Europe today. Generally speaking, that's the picture. The secularists have won. Get this. This guy's very clever, too. He figured this out. Now the religious vacuum left by the demise of Christianity is being filled by Islam. There is never a vacuum, my friends. Never a vacuum. Either we fill it or someone will fill it. And then it goes on from there. Since one cannot fight something with nothing. Is that still true for you military guys? Since one cannot fight something with nothing, the European secularists are no match for Islam. Islam says they will have Europe by 2050. They will have it by 2050 for a number of reasons, but one reason is demographic. The Germans can't reproduce Germans, but the Muslims have figured it out. Take your hats off, my friends. You have 4 wives and 30 kids, and the Germans right now are 1.1 demographically. The Italians are 1.3. The Spanish can't even figure it out. I mean, even the Brits can't figure out how to have kids. The Brits are not even close to 2. In fact, there are no European countries right now demographically that are close to 2. They're all low. None of them are reproducing themselves. Have you all figured that out, by the way? If you don't reproduce yourself, the chances are there's not a whole lot of future. Or is that just an understatement? By the way, it is a great article, and everything by Paul Belin, B-E-L-I-E-N. Everything by him is worth reading. He publishes in the Washington Times about once a week or once every 2 weeks, but sort of keep it on. He's got a great eye on Europe, and I don't know if he's a Christian or not, but I'll tell you what, he certainly figures that we're in bad shape there. Now, I have with me also, let's see, who else did I have here? I have Bill Buckley. By the way, he just passed away, for those of you that are interested in this area. And by the way, I was surprised. CNN gave him an hour's going away present. I was surprised, and was very well done, by the way. I don't know about, no, did I say CNN? Fox. I'm sorry. Fox. Yes, that's right, Tommy. No, CNN, I don't think mention them very much. But Fox gave him an hour's going away. And I have to admit that Buckley influenced me a whole lot. When I was at the University of Wisconsin, we'd call him up and say, we need a speaker, and he would show up. And he wouldn't charge us, because we didn't have any money anyway. And I remember when I ran for Congress in Madison, I had the whole conservative club of Wisconsin behind me. Of course, we didn't have any money either. But, you know, you get 100 kids doing things, and it's really, really amazing. Everyone thought, whoa, my word, where is he getting all that help? Here's Bill Buckley. The most influential educators of our time. John Dewey. Is he on our chart? There he is, the left-handed picture. William Kilpatrick, George Counts, and Harold Rugg and the lot are out to build a new social order. It's on page 26, right? You see it? Page 26. Out to build a new social order in religion. Wow. Religion? You mean this new social order is religious? Clergy in the classroom? Clergy in the classroom. Religious. I thought we can't mix religion and education. No. You can't mix Christianity and education. You can mix religion and education. You can bring them all in except Christianity. I read it. There is not enough room, however, for the new social order and religion. It clearly won't do then to foster within some schools a respect for an absolute, intractable, unbribable God. Wow. A divine intelligence who is utterly unconcerned with other people's versions of truth and humorlessly inattentive to majority opinion. Okay, the vote is 51 to 49. Same-sex marriage. Bring it in. That going to influence God? I don't think so. It won't do to tolerate a competitor for the allegiance of man. The state prefers a secure monopoly for itself. See, pretty close? It is intolerably divisive to have God and the state scrapping for disciples. Religion then must go. No, Christianity must go. The fight is being won. Academic freedom is entrenched. Religion is outlawed in the public schools. Bill Buckley. Judeo-Christian precepts in the universities. Right here. By the way, Carl Rogers was at the University of Wisconsin when I was there. I could tell you a few things about that, but I better not. In the universities, in the news media, in the entertainment industry, in the judiciary, in the federal bureaucracy, in business, medicine, law, psychology, sociology, arts, public schools, and Congress. Some of you might be asking right now, what's left? Right? I mean, it has the humanistic system of values has outstripped our Judeo-Christian precepts in all these areas. In all these areas. He says, indeed, the resources available to secular humanists throughout our society are almost unlimited in scope. You want the translation there? Foundations. You want the translation there? Ford Foundation. Rockefeller Foundation. The John D. MacArthur. John D. and Catherine something or other Foundation. Remember that one? What's the last name? MacArthur Foundation. Everyone, that is not Douglas MacArthur, by the way. Yeah. And in Tim LaHaye, in my book called Mind Siege, on page 70 and 71, we give you nearly a page and a half of the foundations behind this whole group. Behind this group. You want to say, where do they get all their money? Well, first of all, they get it from taxpayers like you. Okay? You pay for their salaries, but that's just the start of it. They get their big bucks from the foundations. And as Dobson says, the resources available to this ball team right here is almost unlimited in scope, and they are breaking new ground almost every day. Is this serious stuff we're talking about or no? Those of you that want to challenge, that's your challenge. That's your challenge. And then I have others, but for time's sake, those of you that have the notes for Worldviews and Conflict, you can find them. I mean, they're all there, and I got some good material there for you too. Is that fair enough? And we'll just let that go. Look what I did, though. I missed Thomas Sowell's quote. Thomas Sowell's got a great quote. In fact, those of you that are in education, Thomas Sowell's book on, let's see, what did he call his book? Hang in there. No, not that one. No. Hang in there. Something about education. Inside America. Is that Inside American Education? Hang on there. Why don't I have it? 33. Oh, it's on page 33. It is called Inside American Education. Inside American Education. And there he says, advocates of sex. Well, I might as well read it. Can y'all handle another one? Yeah. How many can handle another one? Doesn't make any difference. I'm going to do it anyway. Democracy, hey. Advocates of secular humanism have been quite clear and explicit as to the crucial importance of promoting their philosophy in the schools to counter or undermine religious values among the next generation. While the organized secular humanist movement might seem to be a small fringe group, its impact on education is out of all proportion to its size. That's the understatement, by the way. Yes, that group there, my friends, runs the whole program, K through graduate school. K through graduate school. So that's Thomas Sowell. Now look what I've done here. I have found something to bolster my basic argument from Jewish source, Catholic source, Protestant source, white source, black source, and the Marines. Is that good enough, brother? I mean, if you can't handle that, forget it. I also have some good stuff from Mark Stein, too. Are you all reading Mark Stein's articles? They are so good. If you haven't read Mark Stein's articles, they're in our paper quite often, but go online and go to WorldNet Daily, and you will find his articles there as well. They're all worth reading. I don't know where he gets all the information. He just keeps putting it out and putting it out and putting it out. And he takes no prisoners. In fact, he's being sued right now in Canada. Some human rights association up in Canada is suing him because he said that some Muslims were violent. Now, I didn't say that. That's a new French salute, by the way. Good point. Now, are we ready to go? You ready to go? Let's start with a definition of worldview quickly. And I'm going back to our chart here. Well, not too far. I don't want to go too far from our chart. Because I'm going to show you, I got one key point with John Dewey yet. Once you understand it, this will all come clearer. Trust me. If I can understand this, you can understand it. It's just taken me a few years to figure it out. Now, this is my definition of worldview. If you go to Norm Geisler and his Christian apologetics work, he's got a little different slant. Ron Nash, Worldviews in Conflict, I think he called it Worldviews in Conflict, if I'm not mistaken. He's got a little different slant. Everyone seems to have a little different definition, but you know what? When you look at them all, put them all together, you find out they're very, very similar. So I'm going to give you my definition, and then we'll just let the chips fall where they fall. I think mine is the best, but then my wife says I'm prejudiced, bigoted, and slanted. And she's probably right, too. So here's a real quick definition of a worldview. It is a bundle of ideas. It is a bundle of ideas, beliefs, convictions. Got to put all these words in there because they all have little different nuances, okay? It's a bundle of ideas, beliefs, convictions, and values. In which one stick in the bundle? In which one stick in the bundle says something theologically or theological. In which one stick in the bundle. In other words, my bundle of worldview has just 10 sticks. That's all I need to get this off the ground. Now, you can add to them, and some of you might want to subtract from it. That's fine. I'm contending for 10 sticks in the bundle. And that's not a total one because we could add, and I used to do this on this chart, but I The friends who were going to help me, they never came through. But I was going to go art, music, and literature at the very end as well. Art, music, and literature. And then we were going to do art in all these 6 categories and 6 worldviews, and we were going to do music in all 6 worldviews, and we were going to do literature in all 6 worldviews. But they all dropped off, and they left me hanging. So some of you, the work isn't done yet. You can keep right on trucking and just do your duty. In which one stick in the bundle is theological. One stick in the bundle has to be then what? It has to be philosophical. You have to say something philosophically in your worldview for me to say that's a worldview. Then what's the third one, do you think? Third stick. Ethical. You have to tell me what your worldview says is right and what is wrong. By definition, that would be an ethical statement. What do you think my fourth bundle is? Now, biology here covers a multitude. Biology here covers science per se. I could have used science, but I'm using biology because you have to have something on origins to get your worldview off the ground anyway. So biology is not a bad place. If you want to broaden that up to science, you can put the rest in there as well. Something has to be said psychologically. You have to say something about the soul. Now, in my definition of psychology, that means the study of soul. So now you go across that board and you'll see where they're coming from on the other worldviews. You have to say something about sociology. You have to have a sociological stick in the bundle. By the way, I'm going to prove to you that this is not so difficult to grasp because I'm going to take you to 2 orders to prove it. I'm going to take you to the creative order of God. We're going to go right back to Genesis. In fact, if you want to read Genesis before tomorrow night, that'd be wonderful. And you know what? Take your chart with you and just check them off. Woo! Hey, there's a theological statement right there. Genesis 1:1, by the way, in case you're wondering. And then go click, 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 click. I mean, when I first saw this, I was sleeping and dreaming about this. And it hit me. And I jumped out of bed. I don't know if I was still sleeping or not. Ran downstairs and started checking them off. Couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it. Sociologically, law, politics, economics, and history. Those are the 10 key categories that I contend you have to speak to have a worldview. Now, that does limit that definition from some. You know what I'm saying? Those of you that are just vegetarians, I don't want to burst your bubble, but that is not a worldview. Okay? So you do work some of this out in the process. But in the process, you still end up with 6. That's the amazing part to me. You still end up with 6. So, to have a worldview, you have to say something theologically, something philosophically, ethically, and all the way down the line. You have to say something in those areas. By the time you draw the line at the bottom, you have a worldview. Now, I'm going to give you this quote that I promised you last night. Because these particular... Well, look at the chart again. This is, as I say, this is easy to grasp. 6 worldviews. 10 categories. 6 times 10. Another Tommy Ice. Hang on, I got to drink to that. $60 what? Make up a worldview. Well, now, sticks, but now you're transferring that to this chart. So now I have 60 hardcore ideas. Ideas. I have 60 hardcore ideas that I contend, describe, explain, and define the world. That's where I'm going. You with me? Okay. I want you to jot down this quote just to show you that I'm in the ballpark. I'm in the ballpark. Some of you right now think he's in left field. I want you to jot down this book, Lord Acton, Lord Acton, I mentioned him last night. The author is Schuettinger, Schuettinger. Robert Schuettinger. Lord Acton by Robert Schuettinger, 1976, page 174. I readeth. Quoth, Acton was convinced that there were some 20 or 30 predominant currents of thought or attitudes of mind that provided the structure of modern history and held the key to explaining it. I readeth again. Acton was convinced that there were some 20 or 30 predominant currents of thought or attitudes of mind that provided the structure of modern history and held the key to explaining it. I continue to read. The majority of these ideas, the majority of these ideas were either religions or substitutes for religion. The majority of these ideas were either religions or substitutes for religions. Well, look at our chart, my friends. Christianity, religion. Islam, religion. Secular humanism, religion. I'm going to argue that tomorrow night. Okay? Going to argue that tomorrow night. Marxism, secular religion. Did they have a priesthood? You better believe it. Did they have their dogma and creed? You better believe it. Cosmic humanism or Hinduism, religion. Postmodernism is probably the shakiest. Yeah, that is the shakiest. Because they claim they're not even a worldview. I contend that postmodernism is the world's first non-worldview worldview. And, incidentally, what did I do with that? In David Hunt's latest Berean call. Do y'all take the Berean call here? No. You take the Berean call? This is radical. This is March. We're in March. Is this March? This is March 08. This is TA's article, by the way, and it's very well done. It's called Ancient Future Heresies. Ancient Future Heresies. Read the whole thing carefully, and you'll get about into the middle section, and you'll discover what I'm saying about postmodernism. It's right here. Yeah. Now, I don't even know if he calls it postmodernism, but he's calling it the new movement of evangelicals towards, what is he calling it here? Monasticism. Monasticism. You're all supposed to crawl into, well, this gal here, one of your heroes is, let's see, she walled herself off into a cell, and she stayed in this cell. And I was attached to a church, so that was good. And she had a small window, and that provided her with food. But she had a view of the church and the altar. Well, for 20 years. 20 years. And that's supposed to be one of our heroes. Huh? Well, this is contrary to where I'm going. Because my challenge is just the reverse. I'm trying to get our kids to understand these worldviews and then get out in society and say something for Jesus. And not be ashamed. Because as it turns out, my friends, the greatest single predominant figure in Western civilization is Christ. Isn't it amazing? It's Christ. I even have that someplace. Did I bring that with me? Newsweek said that. So you know it's true. Isn't this amazing? Hang in there. Hang in. This really blew me away. By any standard, Jesus is the dominant figure of Western civilization. By any standard. You name your standard. Religious, non-religious, secular, I don't care. You give me a standard. I readeth. I continue to read. I readeth. Where? By, page 54, by any secular standard, Jesus is the dominant figure of Western culture. He influenced Western ideas. Whoops, there's Christianity right over there. Take a look at those ideas. Where do you think those ideas come from, my friends? Do you know where they come from? The Bible? Those ideas over there on the left? Way on the left. Well, that's probably bad to say that like that, but you know what I'm saying. Jesus influenced Western ideas, inventions. By the way, very few people talk to this point. Did you realize that most of the inventions that you enjoy, including light, electricity, cell telephones? Well, I don't know if that's a good idea. But anyway, you know what I'm saying? Most of those were invented by Christians. Most of the major inventions that you enjoy in the West were invented by Christians. And this is Newsweek, by the way. This is not Christianity Today speaking. This is Newsweek. Art and science were influenced by Jesus Christ. Art and science? Yeah. I thought science belonged to the secular humanists. No, they stole it. Yeah. They stole it from us. We let them get away with it. Remember what the Marine said? We have abandoned it. The moment the secular humanist said science belongs to us, we should have said, drop dead, buddy. Like that. But we didn't. Much of this just happened right under our nose. We didn't say boo. We didn't say boo. Well, we were interested in other things. Much more interested in other things. Art and science, self and society, politics and economics, marriage and the family, right and wrong, body and soul, all have been touched and radically transformed by Jesus Christ. That's Newsweek magazine. Wow. Anyway, read that through and you'll see where that fits very nicely. Let's go back to Lord Acton. Lord Acton says, how many ideas rule the world? 20 to 30. Now, he wrote this in 1890s. My guess is about 1890. I have just expanded, but you know what, my friends? I have 60 up there. But did you notice that it's not full 60? Why? Because many of them are similar. For example, look at theology. On the theology line alone, over all 6 worldviews, how many theologies are up there? Just 3. Just 3. Isn't that interesting? C.S. Lewis said that in 1940 or thereabouts. C.S. Lewis said, when everything is said and done, there are 3 theologies. Theism, atheism, pantheism. Those are the big ones. And he also had another observation. He said in the end, when everything is said and done, it'll be pantheism that's going to be knocking on the door of the world. Well, the atheists are giving that group a real struggle right now, as some of you already know. So, just do that and you'll see. Knock out all the duplicates. Do you know what you end up with on that chart? About 45. Now, how close am I then? 1890 to the present. He had 20 or 30 key ideas. I say about 45 ideas. You mean we can't convince our Christian young people? We can't show our Christian young people that if they have 45 ideas under their belt, they can understand the whole world. Can never be fooled. They go to class. I don't care what class they go to. Any class. Within 2 or 3 weeks, they should know exactly where the prophet's coming from. 2 or 3 weeks. They can go to Moscow State University. That would be an easy one to figure out. But you know what I'm saying. To what? Idaho. What about Idaho? Oh, Moscow, Idaho. Oh, right. How about Austin, Texas? There you go. Tommy's going to come up here and sing pretty soon. How did you know all those songs, Tommy? I don't understand that. Okay. Now, here's what we're going to do. We're nearly finished. I know some of you are getting excited. Doug, see you. Doug, Margaret, see you. By the way, they have been summiteers for I can't tell you how long. Okay, Doug taught at the how many? 37 years. Well, we've only been there 46, but they've been there for a long time, and they moved here in retirement, and they're going to make this their church home too, which is sort of nice. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Tomorrow night, I'm going to give you the creative order and the redemptive order in regards to the Christian worldview. Is that fair enough? Now we're going to find out if these categories, theology, philosophy, ethics, bi, psych, soc, legal, polo, echo, and history, where do they come from? Where do they come from? Because that's Western civilization. Where did they come from? You'll never believe it. Holy Bible. That's what it says right here. Holy Bible. And in the creative order, in the first 3 chapters of Genesis. Isn't that amazing? And my argument will be tomorrow night. I don't care how far you think you can get out of Genesis 1, 2, and 3. You can't get out too far. You're locked in, friends. Yes. Genesis 1, 2, and 3 says, I created you male and female. We've tried our best to negate that, but at the end of the day, men still love women, and women still love men, if they're normal. But if they go to some of our universities, all men are beasts. Yes, we put one man on the moon. Let's get them all there. So we can have peace on earth, goodwill to women, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know? But that's a stretch. And guess what, my friends? They have no future because they don't multiply and divide. Yes. 2 women holding hands is not going to do it for the next generation. That's just for those of you that aren't quite sure. But I'm a stickler on this. Plus, I love my wife. And she tells me once in a while, she likes me. Anyway, are we all set to go? Tomorrow night's a big night. I got to finish 3 things tomorrow night. But we're going to just go boom, boom, boom. I won't have too many jokes, although I do have a cute one that I probably will give some of you because you'll need it by tomorrow night because tomorrow is a busy day. Anyway, we've had a good time. Appreciate it. Robert? And we're finished then. Stand, have a word of prayer, and we will bid you good night. Lord, once again, we just come before you as the God of our universe. Thank you, Lord, for this magnificent creation, and thank you for creating us in your image. And Lord, I do pray that you would just lead and direct as we just continue to ponder these things. Many of these are important, not just for us, but for the next generation as well. And we pray, Lord, for understanding. Give us a great night of rest tonight. Bless our families, too, wherever they might be. In Christ's name, amen.